Hey, Dragon Slayers. It's been about 2 hours since my last meal. Don't have my typical glucose check tonight because I need to put another one in, and I won't have time to do that before going to bed, so I'll have one for tomorrow for sure. But my last meal was two pork chops, about that big, maybe that thin. It's probably somewhere around a half pound of meat, maybe a little more. And then I had what is it? Bell pepper, like diced bell pepper, a little bit of hummus, some pork loin, and one cookie, chocolate chip, I believe it was. So today's video is all about continuing what I started in the last one. This is fasting myths part 2. So let's start off with, you've probably heard that fasting leads to burning muscle instead of fat. Many people are concerned that if they start fasting, they will either stop making muscle or maybe even burn muscle. While this is certainly true of starvation, going many days without food, it is not true of intermittent fasting, hours rather than days without food. If this were true, humans would not be here today. In fact, growth hormone is increased during fasted states, both during sleep and after a period of fasting. Growth hormone might as well be called fasting hormone, as it rises by as much as 2,000% after 24 hours of fasting. Growth hormone prevents muscle breakdown and is used in combination with testosterone by bodybuilders who want to simultaneously build as much muscle and burn as much fat as possible. Growth hormone elevates in fasting to help preserve muscle in times of fasting. And this makes sense. In our hunter-gatherer ancestors, if fasting for short periods of time and going for a few hours or even a few days without food made you weaker and slower, you would never catch or find any food and you would die, and humans would become extinct. In fact, the opposite is true, which is that fasting for short periods, less than 24 hours, muscle is preserved or can even grow if you're doing resistance training, which is highly recommended. Also, people experience an increased level of focus and alertness during intermittent fasting thanks to the release of epinephrine and norepinephrine. This increases energy and alertness, and it's helped us catch prey when necessary. Another fasting myth that you've probably heard is that your metabolism slows down when you're fasting. This is true of starvation, going days or weeks without food. In the short term, it's completely false. A number of studies have proven that fasting up to 72 hours, the metabolism does not slow down at all. In fact, in some cases, it even speeds up just slightly thanks to the release of epinephrine and adrenaline, norepinephrine, and dopamine. An activation of the sympathetic nervous system. Sympathetic nervous system is often considered the fight or flight system, while the opposite is the parasympathetic nervous system, or the rest and digest system. It makes sense that this fight or flight sympathetic nervous system would be activated during the daytime, when the hunter-gatherer humans are most active and in the fasted state, looking for food, followed by parasympathetic rest and digest mode in the evening after eating a large meal. Another fasting myth you've probably heard of is that if I don't eat, I will get low blood sugar or hypoglycemia. Studies have shown that healthy persons who have no underlying medical conditions, who are not taking any diabetes medication, can fast for extremely long periods of time without suffering any hypoglycemia. In fact, almost all sensations of hypoglycemia or low blood sugar in non-diabetics results from eating a very high glycemic index carbohydrate of food for hours prior. Blood sugar spikes and then insulin spikes. And when blood sugar drops rapidly, however, if you are diabetic, especially if you are on diabetes medication, you definitely need to check with your doctor before starting a fasting protocol. Some diabetes medications can lead to severe hypoglycemia when fasting, mostly insulin and sulfonylurea. I'm probably mispronouncing that. Drugs like glipizide, glimepiride, and glyburide. Sorry for butchering those words. So be sure to check with your doctor prior to starting a fasting protocol if you have any medical problems, diabetes, or otherwise. So that's what I've got for you guys today. Don't forget to like and subscribe. You can support me on Patreon. And remember, guys, that together, you and I will slay the dreaded diabetes dragon.